everyone, welcome to Millennium Live. My name is Katie Perry. Today I'm joined by Sonja Kotrostos from Contentstack. She is the head of European go-to-markets. Thank you for joining me today, Sonja.
Thank you for having me, Katie. It's great to be here.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're here. So before we jump in today, can you give us a little background on yourself and Contentstack?
Sure, absolutely. So I've been working in the digital experience industry for a good 20 years. That used to make me feel experienced, but now it's getting a little old, isn't it? I started working in implementation for large enterprise brands and their global digital experiences, moved into the sales and marketing side, and later into product marketing and alliances. So I've, from a vendor perspective, I've had a chance to support customers really from very different angles in their journey, which has been absolutely exciting. I really enjoy being with the up and coming technologies out there. And that is what led me to Contentstack. Contentstack is a content experience platform. The terminology is somewhat new. Customers or listeners will probably recognize it as content management, web content management, digital experience. There's a lot of different terms for that. Contentstack is a rather young company. We've been founded in 2018, but the history of the product goes back much further than that. For a good 5-6 years, this product has served large enterprises in creating better customer engagement through content experiences.
So you had mentioned you like to be with the most up and coming technology. So what led you to Contentstack?
Oh, that's a good question. I think first and foremost, what led me to Contentstack is having been an industry insider, the customer advocacy that Contentstack has for its product and also the company. If you look at public reviews, G2 Crowd or the Gartner Peer Insights, you will see very authentic first-hand reviews from customers. And we all know that enterprise software that we use every day, most people don't love it. So it intrigued me that Contentstack is doing something right there. From a technologist perspective, I enjoy that Contentstack, being such a fresh, modern technology, is right on the trend of what the industry refers to as MACH technologies. And I see that our customers are really exploiting that to the fullest and getting to a level of engagement and agility that just wasn't possible like a decade ago. The editor usability is fantastic, and that is also something that surprised me very much, because this new technology is often very geeky. It's often made for developers, and Contentstack looked at it from the business user and the content manager's perspective first, and then also brought in the development excellence and the enterprise architecture pieces. But that makes it a very different beast in a large market, essentially, if that makes sense.
So what did you say MACH technology is?
Oh, I didn't, did I? I just tossed that term out. My apologies. It's a new term. It's a new term that encompasses a combination of architectural paradigms that we feel makes technology modern. So it's MACH technology, MACH in the sense of fast, speed of sound. M stands for microservices. That's the idea that a technology has modular services components rather than being one big monolithic blob that is not very agile within itself. And that has implications for how easy it is to create interoperability with other pieces of digital experience technology through APIs. A stands for API first, so API being an application programming interface. And API first means that whenever functionality is released, it has to be available as a general available programming interface, and well documented on top of any user interface functionality that you might have. And also that plays into the idea of any brand that is looking to create an outstanding experience for their digital customers will ultimately have to piece together a lot of different tools. You know, we sell content management, but there is commerce, there's personalization, there's analytics, there's search, there is digital asset management, and having a solution that enables a brand to use APIs to create connectivity between these systems in a straightforward and a seamless way is very crucial for the whole thing to work. And then C stands for cloud native SaaS, software as a service. That essentially plays to the notion of you can access the software in the cloud. You do not have to worry about having servers in your basement and maintaining that. You know, whether your IT team does that yourself or a vendor does it for you in a hosted scenario.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge for organizations in that is that if you use those old school, those legacy solutions, you're often stuck with upgrading software. And upgrading software in reality means you have to freeze the innovation of your digital experience for weeks or sometimes even months. There's cost attached, there's effort attached to upgrading, and there's risk attached. Where pure software as a service solutions, customers will always benefit from the latest release. And it's we refer to that as seamless rolling upgrades. But essentially it means we innovate something amazing and it's there for all of our customers right away. Okay. And then H stands for headless. And that term has been around for a while. It's a very unfortunate term. Headless sounds like something is missing. Essentially what it does, doesn't it? So if you, Katie, have any ideas for a better term, the industry is longing for one. But whilst we don't have that, so headless means essentially that the front end experience is not directly tied to the systems that create it. So very concretely, with a headless content management system, you can deliver obviously a website, but you can also at the same speed, the same grace, deliver a mobile application, an in-store display, a IoT application, kiosks. We have smart arenas in our customer example. So really anything that would consume content can be served from one single source without having to worry about what framework the organization needs to use or chooses to use on the front end. It's a very technical
it is
technical
but you explained
definition.
it very well, so thank you.
Okay.
So with this technology, can you give me some examples of what challenges customers can solve with this?
Yeah, and thank you for asking that, because the question is really, okay, what's the business case behind this, right?
Right.
I think first and foremost, agility and dexterity of an organization. So all those elements that I said from a technology perspective, they are geared to allow an organization to set up a composable ecosystem of vendor solutions that serves their unique business case best. And if I look at our customer base, then customers that moved from the legacy monolith suite solutions to MACH technology, they all report factor 5, factor 10 agility in the speed to market. So a customer has an idea, a brand has an idea of what to do with their digital experience until deployment. That is significant because that brings down not just the time to market, it brings down the development cost, it brings down the opportunity for the competition to do something fantastic in the meantime. And what is interesting is that the combination of being fast and having everything run in a SaaS environment at the same time brings down cost. So Elastic, for instance, is a big well-known software vendor. They factor 5 their development speed and effectiveness and cut down cost to 1/5 at the time.
Wow.
And of course, you know, if one goes up, the other one goes down. What our customers do is they utilize all that additional potential and all those additional resources to innovate over their digital experience. And then, you know, it's an upward spiral. You're faster with everything great you can try and experiment with, leading to a better customer experience, leading to more revenue. and at a cost efficiency that is amazing.
Right. So, of course, a hot topic right now is COVID-19.
Yeah.
So what did the pandemic mean for your customers specifically?
That's an interesting question. I think no other time has shown the importance of being able to change course quickly, certainly in digital, as the last few months.
I'm sure.
Um, Nobody in January would have thought what the world looks like for us today, and
Mhm.
how quickly it has changed and what that means for brands. So,
Mhm.
if you think of a marketing team that had their 2020 plan firmly cemented January 1st, their
It,
world, everybody's world, no matter
right.
what industry you're in, no matter what region you're in, has been turned upside down. And our customers' world has as well. The first aspect of that really is the ability to change and the
Mhm.
ability to quickly pivot. There's a few examples. So, see, we have a very diverse customer base. So, we have a lot of customers in retail and luxury brands, for instance. And their challenge, their first and foremost challenge, was just being available and being able to deliver at speed,
Mhm.
because that industry has made like 3 decades of growth in 3 months of projected growth in
Mhm.
January, right? So that comes with a lot of load on the systems, that comes with a lot of additional requests, and we all know the supply chain and also the delivery chain has struggled somewhat. But those retailers that were on true cloud native software could deliver their digital experience and could engage with their customers, not just in a reactive way, but also in a proactive way. So, say, for instance, you're selling hair products, right? And your customers can't go anymore to their hairdresser.
Right.
Instead of just sitting there and waiting for someone to think, maybe I should buy some hair color myself and figure out how that works, if you're able to pivot quickly, you can start setting up helpful content that really speaks to the needs and that says, hello, we know you can't go to the hairdresser, but you can still look pretty. Here's how you can do it yourself. Here's the products that we have. And of course, the brands that will think about what does my customer need and will be able to react to that consistently throughout any channel
Mhm.
will leave a lasting impression. We have a large international toy retailer um, that pivoted in two very interesting ways in this time. The first is that they had a B2B practice that would sell educational toys to schools and educational facilities only. They were able in a few weeks to shift that business to also selling to direct consumer,
Wow.
because everybody was teaching from home. Now,
Right.
this is a really pricey toys, but as a parent, I was certainly desperate to keep my children amused in this homeschooling time.
Right.
And it's been a significant source of new revenue, but it would not have been possible had they not had the processes and the technology to make that shift.
Right.
They, by the way, and I cannot claim any involvement in that, they also shifted one of their production lines to make face masks, which I think is also fantastic, instead of toys. But it shows you a mindset that that
Mhm.
that retailer is in, and an ability as an organization, from a thought process, not just technology, to pivot to what is needed at any given point in time.
Right.
Another, sorry, I have a lot of examples.
No, please don't
An-
apologize.
Another example is Ellie Mae, who I'm sure many will know. Ellie Mae is running their their content experiences on Contentstack, and they had a massive Ellie Mae experience event for their customers and their fans, essentially, organized, and it was all planned out to the last detail. Lockdown came and the event had to be cancelled, and that is a situation that many other organizations were in.
Of
Now,
course.
what Ellie made it differently is that within a few weeks, they virtualized this complete event on top of Contentstack. So all the speeches, all the educational information, all the attendee interaction, they moved from start to finish, from thinking about this to its live within 6 weeks. it was such a fantastic success. Their customers were so thrilled that they still had a chance to get all this information, that they still had a chance to interact with each other, that they actually had double the attendance and then double the reach, right?
Wow.
So again, here, amazing story, and the time span, the brevity of that, and how cost effective it is as well to do this. That's what really made a big difference for our customers, and what they also actively tell us, which is just great.
So you have given so many examples of your customers that have been able to take something really tragic for the world and make it better
Yes.
for their company. But for a company that maybe doesn't have the ability to change or doesn't have the mentality to change, could you offer any advice to them to using new technologies?
I think my first advice would be to take a good hard look at the assumption that staying with the status quo is safe, because I personally think it is the riskiest choice right now to stay
Okay.
with the status quo. Um, it's not just COVID-19. There is so many incidents like that we can't predict. The most important thing for any organization is to be able to pivot. The competition isn't standing still, right? If it's not a pandemic, it might be your competitor doing something fantastic. Customer expectation isn't standing still. The amount of channels that we're expecting to interact with in a consistent and engaging way is not standing still. The idea to stay where you are is often comes from the fear of what the other solution might look like. And I would advise to talk to organizations that have made this shift and hear their stories and understand that it is actually not very scary to go down this path. And when I say this path, I don't just talk technology. That's really a shift in people and process needs to be in place for technology to have a benefit. Yeah.
So if a company was saying, okay, it's time to change our technologies, where would they start?
Yeah, that depends very much on where that company is at today. There's essentially two different models. So you don't need to completely re-engineer all your technology, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I would really advise those organizations that you mentioned before that might not have agile practices set up yet, that don't have that culture of experimenting and iterating, continuously innovating. I would even say don't do a whole revamp of your technology. Start with a project that is very important for you to get out quickly, get out in a good way, that has some internal strategic stance as well, so that you will get attention with it. And then pick that initiative and use it as a proof of concept. See what would happen if we would pivot our organizations. And what we've seen is that organizations that do that, where usually the more executive leadership is hesitant to inflict change, when you have such a project, especially the younger, the Gen Z, Gen X even workforce will jump onto these projects and they will enjoy so much that they have the ability to create something new, that they feel empowered to really create business value as well. And this is not just the technologists, this is also the business users that think in different ways. Start there, prove the point internally, showcase internally that it works, because that's so much easier to believe the team down the hallway compared to another company. And then from there build out. And we do have instances like that in our customer base. There's a large North American fashion retailer that had a situation where they had a mobile app for Black Friday that was pretty rigid, and they prepared everything for Black Friday. This was 2 years ago, and Black Friday starts, and within like 2 hours, 10 a.m. in the morning, everything they had on their mobile app on the home screen and the sub home screens was sold out, which is great, right? Now, the challenge was that all of this was so hard coded and was not hooked up to a content experience platform that it took them 2 weeks, 2 weeks to replace the products on that mobile app. Which
Wow.
means for 2 weeks, whenever someone came to that site and was like, or that app and said, oh my God, I want to buy something, every single product was sold out, a complete brand hazard. So they said, we're never going to do this again. We're going to buy the most expensive software that's out there. And next year we'll be in good shape. So they did that. They bought the most expensive software out there and then started a 9-month project. 8 months into that project, they were 4 months behind in their development. And then they called Contentstack. And then we turned that around in a matter of weeks and actually launched 2 weeks before Black Friday. And if you look at the comparison that unfortunately I can't share between the revenue figures then and the revenue figures when they were empowered to actually control through marketing, through merchandisers, through content teams, their apps themselves, fantastic. That company has now today 10x of mobile app usage, and that translates into the revenue stream. And also here, the experience that started on mobile moved then into in-store experiences. So they have a lot of digitalized shops where you have the in-store displays. And after they saw the success of that, they moved Contentstack also to power their digital stores and the connectivity between the mobile app a customer has and when they go into the store, and the screens also function in the same way and create that connected, engaging experience is beautiful. But it's a good example for someone that didn't just revamp everything, that started with one
Right. So you mentioned that you came in and within a couple weeks, they were up and running for Black Friday. How long does it normally take for a company to implement Contentstack? Is it normally just a couple weeks?
That also depends on what you mean by implementing Contentstack. So this is where the idea of having a composable architecture comes in.
Okay.
If you think about this as a big digital transformation project where you replace all of your technology that plays into digital experience, then that is a long project. That is not something you do in a matter of weeks. That needs to be, there's a lot of change management. There's a lot of overhead and organizational aspects to that too. And we do have customers like that will, with partners of ours in commerce and personalization and so on, completely re-platform. That'll take months, right? Let's not kid ourselves there. But this example I just gave about the app was a matter of weeks. An example of a very iconic British luxury brand is that whilst that whole process of shifting the entire brand front end and the other technologies did take some time, the actual Contentstack implementation was just a matter of a few weeks, say up to 3 months. And I remember when I went there, the VP Digital said to me, that was my first thing that I did as when I joined Contentstack. It was a little scary. And he said to me, oh, well, we really significantly overestimated the implementation effort that it took to roll out Contentstack. Sorry, what did you just say? I've been 20 years with vendors. I have never heard that. And I've seen the last 3 customers that we onboarded actually were live with the technology before their legal and procurement departments had managed the review. So the developer teams can faster translate the time to value than the organizational mills in the background. And this is because, we open up a trial instance for companies to start working on it, but that is speed, right? We're not talking anymore about you need half a year to implement a system, but that is assuming that indeed you already know what your front end is will be looking like, and you already know what other systems you need to get into. That's of course outside of what a customer would consider Contentstack implementation effort. And then also, this is not just a technology thing. This is also about getting the business users on board, getting the marketing team on board, the content editors. And there it helps, if I may mention G2 Crowd again, we just recently also won the award for the easiest to use CMS on there. And that large toy retailer that I mentioned,
Uh-huh.
they said to me that it takes always, with all their casual subject matter expert users, it never takes longer than half an hour for people to understand how they can actually create content and publish content and where to. And this is a company that is running 25 different languages, over 70 websites, digital stores, applications, fan gaming ones, right? So it's a very, very complex digital experience architecture, but still using the solution underneath is not. And that's also important for implementation effort, that you don't end up with 3 months of training afterwards as well.
Of course.
Very agile, very quick time to market indeed.
So I know I mentioned COVID-19, and with everything going on, we're of course in a more digital world, with which you and I have spoken about and how important it is. So with all of that being said, what have you appreciated most about Millennium's Educate and Engage virtual platform?
What we appreciated most is also how quickly you pivoted from the round tables in person to the virtual round tables. And in general, I love that format that you do, because it's very different to a classic conference where brands go up on stage and, you know, do the Facebook world of that brand with all the happy, polished, brilliant successes they had. I do think the value in those roundtables is that you can be authentic and open and show sort of the battle scars you have and compare
Mhm.
bruises, and talk to other executives about how you've overcome that within your organization. And I'm surprised how different organizations tackle a challenge and come to a solution. And I think that is very interesting to see, hey, this could work too, and that could work too. And the fact that we can't meet in person, but still can do this virtually through Millennium Alliance is just fantastic. Adds tons of value.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me virtually today, Sonja. It was wonderful to have you, and hopefully eventually we'll see you in person.
That would be fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, Katie.
Thank you.